I found my girlfriend's text to her ex. I'm just waiting for his inheritance money. Then I can finally dump this boring loser and be with you. She added, he's so stupid. He actually thinks I love him. I left a fake IRS notice on my desk. She left me the next day. Her panicked calls started when I posted my new house on Instagram. Hey everyone! Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. Throwaway account for obvious reasons. This happened about 6 months ago, and I'm finally ready to share the whole story. Fair warning, this is long, but trust me, it's worth the read. The ending will not disappoint. Some background: I, 32 male, work as an automotive technician in Phoenix. Been at the same shop for 8 years. Worked my way up from oil change guy to lead diagnostic tech. It's honest work, pays around $78,000 a year, plus side jobs on weekends. I'm not wealthy, but I do all right for myself. I was dating Jessica, 28 female, for almost 3 years. Met her at a sports bar during a Cardinals game. She was this bubbly blonde who seemed genuinely interested in me, laughed at my jokes, didn't seem bothered that I work with my hands for a living. Most women I dated before acted like being a mechanic was beneath them, but Jessica acted like it was attractive. Looking back, that should have been my first red flag. But I was thinking with the wrong head, you know? We moved in together after about a year into a decent 2-bedroom apartment in Scottsdale. Nothing fancy, but it was in a safe area with good amenities. Rent was $1,900 a month, which I covered completely because Jessica was building her career as a social media marketing assistant, making about $36,000 annually. She always promised she'd contribute more once she got that big promotion, but somehow that promotion never materialized. Jessica had expensive taste, always wanted to eat at the priciest restaurants, needed the latest iPhone every year, had to have designer purses and shoes. When I'd mention money being tight, she'd pout and say things like, "Don't you want your girlfriend to look good?" Or, "I thought you liked taking care of me." She had this way of making any financial discussion about whether I truly loved her. I grew up in a working-class family. My dad taught me to fix cars in our garage, and we'd spend weekends working on engines together. Lost him to a heart attack when I was 26, which honestly broke me for a while. My mom remarried an accountant and moved to Florida, so it's mostly just me out here in Arizona. I'm not the most emotionally expressive guy, so when Jessica would get upset about money, I usually just gave in to avoid conflict. That was my second mistake. The thing that shattered my world happened on a completely ordinary Tuesday morning in March. I was getting ready for work, syncing my diagnostic equipment with the shop's computer system on my laptop, when Jessica's messages popped up on our shared iPad. She always left herself logged into everything and never bothered to log out. I almost didn't look. Privacy is important in relationships, right? But I saw the name Adam in the preview, and that stopped me cold. Adam was her ex-boyfriend from about 4 years ago. According to Jessica, he was this controlling, manipulative jerk who tried to manage her finances and was emotionally abusive. She claimed she'd blocked him on everything and never wanted to see him again. Said he was the worst mistake she'd ever made. So why was she getting messages from him at 7 a.m.? Curiosity got the better of me. What I read made my stomach drop through the floor. Adam. He's still going on about that inheritance money, isn't he? Keeps talking about buying a house with you. Makes me physically sick. Jessica. I know, baby, it's disgusting. But I have to keep playing along until everything clears the bank. Adam. Just don't get too comfortable playing house with him. You belong to me. Jessica. You know I do. I'm just waiting for his inheritance to come through. The second that money hits his account, I'm done with this whole charade. Adam. How much are we talking about again? Jessica. Around $150,000. More than enough for us to get that condo you wanted in Tempe and still have plenty left over for the lifestyle we deserve. I had to read it 3 times before it really sank in. The inheritance was real. My paternal grandmother had passed away about 8 months earlier and left me $147,000. It was more money than I'd ever seen in my life. When the estate lawyer first told me about it, I was overwhelmed with gratitude and excitement. The first person I called was Jessica. I remember her reaction so clearly now. She literally screamed with joy, started jumping up and down in our kitchen, talking about how this was our golden ticket, and we could finally live the life we deserved. She immediately grabbed her phone and started pulling up Zillow, showing me houses that cost way more than we could realistically afford. When I suggested we look at something more modest, she said, "Babe, This is our chance to really live. Don't be so conservative. We need to think bigger. Now I understood. She wasn't excited for us. She was excited for her and Adam. I scrolled up through their message history with shaking hands. They'd been planning this for weeks, maybe months. She complained constantly about having to pretend to be happy with me, called me boring and said I was too simple-minded for her, but that the money would make it all worthwhile. Adam kept encouraging her to stick with the plan and not mess things up when they were so close to the finish line. The worst part? They were already apartment hunting together, looking at luxury places in Tempe that cost $2,800 plus per month, way more than I could afford on my salary alone, but perfect for someone planning to steal $150,000. I sat there in my work uniform, steel-toe boots laced up and ready to go, looking around our apartment that I paid for completely. The 65-inch TV she absolutely had to have for her Netflix shows. The expensive sectional couch she picked out because it was perfect for entertaining. The high-end kitchen appliances she bought because she was going to start cooking gourmet meals, but never used even once. It was like seeing a movie set where I was the main character, but had no idea I was acting in someone else's script. The anger didn't hit immediately. Instead, I felt this cold, analytical clarity wash over me. Like when you're diagnosing a complex engine problem and suddenly all the weird symptoms start making perfect sense. I wasn't dealing with a girlfriend who had fallen out of love. I was dealing with a calculated con artist who saw me as nothing more than a paycheck. And if she wanted to play games with my heart and my money, I was about to show her that this simple-minded mechanic was a lot smarter than she gave me credit for. For the next 10 days, I became the world's greatest actor. Let me tell you, it was the most emotionally exhausting thing I've ever done in my life. Sitting across from someone at dinner, listening to them complain about their stressful 25-hour work week, all while knowing they're actively planning to rob you blind and disappear. But I had to see how deep this rabbit hole went. Maybe I was misunderstanding something. Maybe there was context I was missing. Maybe she actually did love me and was just having doubts. Spoiler alert, there wasn't, and she didn't. I started testing her in small, subtle ways. I'd casually bring up Adam in conversation like, "Whatever happened to that ex of yours?" Adam, right? She'd get this quick flash of panic in her eyes before covering with, "Ew, why would I even think about that loser?" But she'd immediately change the subject and find an excuse to check her phone. I began paying closer attention to her phone habits. Every single buzz or notification, she'd grab that device like her life depended on it. If I was anywhere nearby, she'd angle the screen away from me or suddenly need to use the bathroom. When I'd ask who was texting, it was always just work stuff, or my sister being dramatic, or the girls planning something. But I could see her typing these long, detailed responses to what she claimed were simple work messages. Who writes paragraphs about scheduling social media posts? The most infuriating part was listening to her talk about our future together. She'd spend hours describing the house we'd buy, going into detail about granite countertops and walk-in closets, talking about how we needed at least 3 bedrooms for when we start our family. She had this elaborate fantasy mapped out, all funded by my inheritance money. When I'd try to inject some financial reality into these conversations, suggesting we should be more conservative with our budget, she'd get visibly frustrated. "You're being so negative," she'd say with this pouty expression. "This money is supposed to change our lives. Why are you acting like we have to stay poor forever?" "I'm not saying we have to stay poor," I'd respond. "I'm just saying we should be smart about this." "Smart? This is smart. This is our one chance to get ahead in life. Don't you want to provide for us? Don't you want me to be happy and secure?" The manipulation was so obvious once I knew what to look for. Every conversation about money became about my responsibility as a man to give her the lifestyle she deserved, and my selfishness if I suggested spending the money on anything practical. But the moment that really confirmed everything happened about a week into my investigation. I casually mentioned that maybe I should use some of the inheritance money to buy a new work truck instead of putting every penny toward a house purchase. The transformation was immediate and dramatic. She went from half listening while scrolling through Instagram to sitting bolt upright with her full attention laser-focused on me. "A truck?" she said, and I could hear genuine panic creeping into her voice. "But honey, we already talked about this. The house is our main priority. That's our future we're talking about." "I know, but my current truck has 190,000 miles on it. It's going to need major repairs soon, and I need reliable transportation for work." Actual tears started forming in her eyes. I thought we had a plan. I've been dreaming about our house, our life together, decorating our space. Are you saying you don't want that anymore? Are you having second thoughts about us? It was a masterclass in emotional manipulation. She took my practical concern about vehicle reliability and twisted it into a referendum on our entire relationship and my commitment to her. Of course I want that, I said, playing along perfectly. You're absolutely right. The house comes first. She visibly relaxed, wiping away what I now realize were completely fake tears. Good. I was scared for a second there. I've actually already been browsing furniture websites for our place. I found this amazing bedroom set that would be perfect. Our place, our future, with my money, that she was planning to steal before running off with another man. The breaking point came on a Thursday night. We were lying in bed after watching a movie, and she started talking about how excited she was for our new life together. How she couldn't wait to quit her job and focus on making our house a real home. How she was going to be the perfect girlfriend once we had real financial security. She traced little circles on my chest with her finger and said, "I love you so much. I love what we're building together. You're going to make me the happiest woman in the world." I lay there staring at the ceiling, thinking about how she was planning to destroy everything the moment she got what she wanted. How every "I love you" was really "I love your bank account." How every conversation about our future was just her calculating dollar signs. That's when I decided it was time to find out exactly how much Jessica actually loved me versus how much she loved my inheritance money. The test I had in mind was going to answer that question definitively. I probably should have just confronted her directly and ended the relationship like a normal person. But I was hurt, angry, and honestly curious about just how quickly she'd abandon ship if she thought the money was gone. Call it scientific curiosity about human nature. I spent Thursday night researching financial disasters online. Bankruptcy seemed too complicated and would take too long to seem believable. I needed something immediate and devastating that would make the inheritance money disappear overnight. That's when I discovered the perfect solution: IRS tax liens on inherited assets. Turns out when you inherit money, there can be serious tax complications if the deceased person's estate wasn't handled properly. I found several real examples of cases where the IRS seized inherited assets due to unpaid taxes, penalties, and interest from the original estate. It was perfect, immediate, devastating, and completely believable. Friday morning, after Jessica left for her part-time job, I got to work creating the most convincing fake document of my life. I found an official IRS tax lien template online and spent 2 hours customizing every detail. Made it look like my grandmother's estate owed $185,000 in back taxes and accumulated penalties, and the IRS was seizing all inherited assets to satisfy the debt. I used official IRS letterhead, included realistic case numbers and tax codes, even researched the correct legal language they use in these situations. Printed it on high-quality paper and put it in an authentic-looking IRS envelope I bought at Office Depot. Here's the thing about Jessica. She's not just naturally curious, she's aggressively nosy about everything. Always organizing my paperwork without permission, going through my wallet to make sure I have all my important cards, checking my phone when I'm in the shower because she's worried about me missing important calls. She disguises it as being helpful and caring, but really it's pure control and nosiness. I left the fake tax lien notice on our kitchen counter, partially concealed under some legitimate mail, positioned exactly where I knew her prying eyes would find it within hours. Then I went to work and acted completely normal. Told my coworkers I was excited about the inheritance finally clearing and mentioned looking at houses with Jessica over the weekend. Really played up how happy we were and how excited I was to propose soon. Around 2:30 p.m., my phone started going crazy. First came a text message. "Call me right now, emergency!" Then missed calls. Lots of them. When I finally answered, she was practically hyperventilating. "What is wrong with you?" she shrieked into the phone. "How could you not tell me about this? There's a letter from the IRS. They're taking your inheritance. All of it." I played completely dumb. "What letter? What are you talking about? Slow down." "Whoa, the tax lien notice. Your grandmother apparently owed massive amounts in back taxes, and now they're seizing everything. We're going to lose the house money." Notice how she didn't say, "You're going to lose the money." It was, "We're going to lose the house money," like it already belonged to both of us. "I don't understand," I said, injecting genuine confusion into my voice. "The estate lawyer never mentioned anything about tax problems." "Well, obviously he messed up big time. This is a complete disaster. What are we going to do? How are we going to fix this?" Again with the we. Like this financial crisis was happening to both of us equally, even though it was my inheritance and my grandmother. "I guess I need to call the lawyer immediately and figure out what's going on," I said. How long will that take? Can we fight this? There has to be something we can do. Can we hire a tax attorney? What about an appeal process? The desperation in her voice was absolutely incredible. This woman who supposedly loved me for who I was completely panicking because a check she was secretly planning to steal might not be coming after all. I honestly don't know, Jess. According to this notice, they're freezing everything pending a full audit of the estate. This could take months, maybe even years to resolve. Dead silence on the other end of the line. Months? She finally whispered, like I'd just told her someone died. Maybe longer. The government doesn't move fast on these things. I'm really sorry, honey. I know we had so many plans. I need some time to process this. We'll talk when you get home tonight. She hung up without saying, I love you, or we'll figure this out together, or any of the supportive things you'd expect from a partner during a crisis. When I got home that evening, I immediately noticed her car wasn't in our assigned parking spot. I went upstairs and the apartment felt different. Empty, hollow. A quick check revealed that several of her essential items were missing. Her expensive makeup bag from the bathroom counter. The designer purse I'd bought her for Christmas. Multiple outfits from the closet, including the expensive dresses she wore to special occasions. On our kitchen counter, the same spot where she used to leave me sweet little notes about picking up groceries or telling me she missed me during the day, sat a folded piece of paper. The note was brief and brutal. I can't handle this anymore. I need stability and a partner who can provide security for our future. This financial mess is too much stress and uncertainty. I think we want different things in life. I'm staying with a friend while I figure out my next steps. I'll come back for the rest of my belongings later. No, I love you. No, let's work through this together. No, I'm here to support you during this difficult time. No, we'll figure out a solution. Just, I need a partner who can provide security. She had lasted exactly 6 hours and 43 minutes after thinking my inheritance was gone. I sat on our expensive couch in the silent apartment and started laughing. Not happy laughter, but that bitter, ironic kind of laughter that comes when something is so predictably awful that it becomes almost funny. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Hey man, this is Adam. Jessica told me what happened with your money situation. That really sucks. She's pretty shaken up about everything. The absolute audacity of this guy. Texting me to offer fake sympathy while my girlfriend was probably already at his apartment celebrating their successful con. I didn't respond to Adam. Instead, I sat in that quiet apartment, surrounded by all the expensive things I'd bought, trying to make Jessica happy, and started planning my next move. Because if she thought this story was over, she was about to learn that she'd picked the wrong guy to mess with. The next few weeks were honestly the most liberating period I'd experienced in years. Yes, it was lonely at times, but it was also incredibly peaceful. No more walking on eggshells about every financial decision. No more listening to endless complaints about wanting things we couldn't afford. No more pretending to care about Instagram follower counts or whatever meaningless drama was happening at her barely part-time job. I started going through Jessica's abandoned belongings, and the evidence of her financial manipulation was staggering. Hidden credit card statements showing purchases at expensive boutiques I'd never heard of. Amazon delivery confirmations for packages that never appeared in our apartment. She'd been using our shared Amazon Prime account to buy designer clothes and accessories, then having them shipped to her sister's house to hide the purchases from me. The girl had been running a secret shopping operation with my money for months. I systematically removed her access from every shared account. Netflix, Spotify, Amazon Prime, Hulu, even the grocery store loyalty card that gave us discounts on gas. Petty? Maybe. But I wasn't about to continue funding her lifestyle while she was off playing house with her ex-boyfriend. When my co-workers at the shop started asking where Jessica had been after about a week and a half, I gave them the technically accurate answer. She's staying with a friend. I didn't mention that the friend was her ex-boyfriend, who she'd been secretly planning to leave me for all along. Several of my buddies were surprisingly supportive. Honestly, man, said Jake, our lead engine rebuilder, she always seemed kind of high maintenance, like she was keeping score of everything you spent on her. Turns out I wasn't the only person who'd noticed her manipulative behavior patterns. The inheritance money was still sitting safely in my checking account, obviously. So I started looking at houses again, but this time exclusively for myself. No more demands for granite countertops and walk-in closets. No more arguments about needing a formal dining room we'd never use. I could buy something practical that I actually wanted. I found the perfect property within 2 weeks. A solid 3-bedroom ranch-style house about 15 minutes from the shop. Nothing fancy or impressive, but it had character and potential. Most importantly, it featured a spacious 2-car garage, that I could easily convert into a proper home workshop for my side business. The asking price was $178,000, which fit comfortably within my budget as a cash buyer. 3 weeks later, I was officially a homeowner for the first time in my life. Walking through those rooms with the keys in my hand, knowing that every single decision about this place would be mine alone, was an incredible feeling. I spent my first evening as a homeowner sitting on the front porch steps, just taking in the quiet neighborhood and planning all the projects I wanted to tackle. This was mine, not ours, mine. No more compromises or arguments about paint colors. No more someone else spending my hard-earned money on frivolous nonsense. I took a simple selfie sitting on those porch steps with the house keys visible in my hand and posted it on Instagram. The caption was straightforward. New chapter officially begins. I didn't tag anyone, didn't mention the breakup, didn't add any dramatic context. Just a quiet announcement of a major life milestone. Within 10 minutes, my phone started buzzing like crazy. First came a call from Adam using the same number he'd texted me from before. I sent it straight to voicemail. Then Jessica called from her regular number. Then Adam again. Then a flurry of increasingly frantic text messages from both of them. The panic in those messages was absolutely beautiful to witness. Jessica: OMG, you bought a house? How is that even possible with the tax lien situation? Adam: dude, what the heck? Jessica said you were completely broke. Jessica: you need to call me right now. I'm so confused about everything. Adam: you better not be playing some kind of game here. Jessica: this doesn't make any sense. What happened to the IRS thing? I ignored every single message and call. Instead, I drove to Home Depot, bought a new gas grill for the back patio, and spent my evening cooking dinner in my own backyard, watching the sunset over my property. Let them panic and wonder. They'd find out the truth soon enough. The calls and messages continued for 3 straight days, increasing in frequency and desperation. Jessica was clearly losing her mind trying to understand what had happened to her carefully planned con, while Adam was getting increasingly angry that their scheme had somehow fallen apart. I finally decided to answer on day 4, mostly because I was genuinely curious about how Jessica would try to explain or justify her behavior. Oh, thank God, she breathed when I picked up the phone. I've been worried sick about you. What happened with the IRS situation? How do you suddenly have enough money to buy a house? Nothing makes sense anymore. I kept my voice completely neutral and emotionless. You left, Jessica. I left because I thought you were financially ruined. I was scared and didn't know what else to do. Anyone would have been terrified in that situation. The note you left was pretty clear about your priorities, I said calmly. You wrote that you needed stability and a partner who could provide security. Since I apparently couldn't provide those things, you left to find someone who could. Long pause while her brain worked overtime trying to find a new angle. That's not... Look, I was in panic mode, okay? I thought we'd lost everything we'd worked for. But now you have a house. What happened to the tax lien? How did you fix it? Turned out to be an error in the paperwork. My lawyer got it sorted out pretty quickly. An error? Her voice pitched higher with each word. You mean the money was never actually in danger? That's correct. Another long pause. I could practically hear the gears grinding in her head. So you just let me believe we were broke? You watched me panic and leave, knowing the whole time that the money was safe? I didn't make you do anything, Jessica. You made your own choices based on your own priorities and values. That's when she completely lost control of the conversation. My priorities? I supported you for 3 years. I helped you plan and prepare for this money. I looked at houses with you for months. I invested my time and emotional energy into our future together. You looked at Zillow listings, I corrected, and you worked about 20 hours per week while I paid 100% of our living expenses. I was building my career. I was going to contribute much more once we got established in the house. With money you thought was permanently gone. That's completely beside the point. That's exactly the point, actually. She started crying then. Not sad, heartbroken crying, but frustrated, angry crying, like a child having a tantrum. This isn't fair. That house, that money, everything we planned, I was part of all of it. We talked about it being ours. You can't just take everything for yourself like I never mattered. And there it was. The mask completely removed. She genuinely believed she was entitled to my inheritance because she'd spent time looking at houses online and talking about how to spend it. Jessica, I said, and my voice was probably the coldest it had ever been during our entire relationship. I saw all the text messages between you and Adam. Complete and total silence. Not even breathing sounds. I know you were planning to leave me the moment the inheritance money cleared my account. I know you were already looking at apartments with him. I know you told him I was too simple and boring for you, but the money would make it worthwhile. The explosion was immediate and predictable. You violated my privacy? You went through my personal messages? That's a complete invasion of my boundaries. You left your messages open on the iPad we share. That's not the same thing at all. Then came the desperate parade of excuses and justifications. It wasn't what it looked like. Adam was just an old friend she was venting to about relationship stress. I had been distant and cold lately, so she was confused about our future. She was just keeping her options open because she wasn't sure about my commitment level. Every classic cheater excuse from the playbook. You specifically told him you were waiting for my inheritance, I stated calmly. Then you were going to be his. She hung up on me. 15 minutes later, Adam called. You're a real piece of garbage, you know that? He said without any greeting or introduction. How's that? Playing mind games with her emotions. Making her think you were broke just to mess with her head. That's genuine psychopath behavior. Almost as psychopathic as planning to steal someone's inheritance and run off with your ex-girlfriend. She wasn't stealing anything. She invested years of her life in you. She earned the right to benefit from that money. She invested years in my bank account balance. You owe her something, man. You led her on. Made her think you guys had a real future together. We did have a future together. Right up until she decided my future bank balance wasn't large enough to justify staying. Adam hung up too. 2 hours later, I received the text message I'd been waiting for. I'm contacting a lawyer first thing Monday morning. What you did constitutes emotional abuse and psychological manipulation. I'm entitled to compensation for the time I invested in our relationship and the trauma you caused me with your deception. You'll be hearing from my attorney very soon. I took a screenshot of that message and actually started laughing out loud. She was going to try to sue me for catching her in the act of planning to cheat and steal from me. This was about to become very interesting indeed. The legal threat turned out to be exactly what I expected. Complete nonsense. No legitimate attorney would take a case where someone wanted to sue their ex-boyfriend for discovering their plan to commit relationship fraud. But Jessica wasn't finished trying to destroy my reputation and social life. She launched a comprehensive social media campaign designed to paint me as an abusive, manipulative monster. Her Facebook post was a masterpiece of victim manipulation, describing how I had psychologically tortured her by faking legal documents, and then cruelly abandoning her during her time of greatest need. Conveniently, she left out the minor details about planning to steal my inheritance and run away with Adam. She started inserting herself into mutual friends' social media posts, casually working my name into conversations with comments like, "That's so sweet. I wish my ex had been that thoughtful instead of being a manipulative sociopath, LOL." And "Some men just can't handle being honest about their feelings." Adam joined the campaign enthusiastically, commenting on my Instagram posts with messages like, "Nice house, hope you enjoy living there alone, and must be nice having money more than having real love." Several of our mutual friends started acting weird around me. A few people asked if I was doing okay mentally, in that concerned tone people use when they think you might be having a breakdown. But Jessica made a critical error in her revenge campaign. She was so angry and desperate to paint herself as the victim that she got sloppy with details. She posted a long Instagram story about financial abuse and toxic masculinity that was obviously about our relationship. The story included specific details about how her ex had made her believe they were poor just to control and manipulate her, then revealed he'd had money all along purely to cause her pain. Here's where she messed up. She included screenshots of some of our text conversations about house hunting, presumably to prove how invested she'd been in our relationship and our shared future. The problem with those screenshots? They included dates and timestamps. Screenshots that showed her talking enthusiastically about our dream house and our future together during the exact same time period when she was texting Adam about waiting for the inheritance money so she could leave me. I carefully saved every single post and screenshot before she could delete anything. But Jessica's biggest mistake was deciding to file an actual small claims court case against me. She sued for $3,800, claiming I owed her for contributions to household expenses and relationship investments. The official filing stated that I had deliberately deceived her about my financial status in order to cause emotional distress, and that she deserved compensation for time and effort invested in the relationship under false pretenses. When I received those court papers in the mail, I genuinely started laughing. She was so desperate to get some portion of that inheritance money that she was willing to go to court, where everything would become part of the public record, including those text messages with Adam, including the timeline of when she left versus when she thought the money was gone, including her own social media posts that proved she was lying about the sequence of events. I didn't even consider hiring a lawyer. The truth was my weapon, and Jessica had just handed me enough ammunition to completely destroy her case and her reputation. But I wasn't just planning to win this court case. I was going to make sure everyone in our social circle learned exactly what kind of person Jessica really was. The day of our small claims hearing, I walked into that courthouse carrying a folder that was legitimately 3 inches thick. I'd spent weeks preparing evidence, organizing timelines, and documenting every lie Jessica had told. Jessica and Adam were already seated when I arrived, both dressed like they were attending a job interview. Jessica kept whispering urgently to Adam and pointing in my direction, like I was some kind of dangerous criminal. She was about to discover what a real criminal looked like. When Jessica's turn came to present her case, she delivered an Oscar-worthy performance about how I'd psychologically manipulated her and stolen her future. She talked tearfully about the emotional trauma of believing we were broke, how she'd wasted 3 years of her life investing in our relationship, and how she deserved financial compensation for her contributions to our shared life. The judge, a stern-looking woman in her early 60s, who had clearly heard every sob story imaginable, nodded politely and took notes without showing any emotion. Then it was my turn to present evidence. "Your Honor," I began, "I'd like to demonstrate that the plaintiff's claims are not only completely false, but actually constitute an attempt to profit from her own planned fraud against me." I started with the text messages, reading them aloud in the silent courtroom. "I'm just waiting for his inheritance. Then I'm yours." Jessica's face went completely white. "These messages, Your Honor, were sent during the week before Ms. Jessica claimed to be emotionally invested in our shared future." Then I presented the timeline with precise dates. Jessica left our shared residence on March 15th. The fake tax lien notice was dated March 15th. My actual inheritance cleared the bank on March 22nd, a full week after she'd abandoned our relationship. The plaintiff abandoned our 3-year relationship within 6 hours of believing my inheritance was gone, Your Honor. She then filed this lawsuit when she discovered the inheritance was real, and I had used those funds to purchase a home. But I was just getting started. I pulled out printed copies of her social media posts, each one highlighted and annotated with dates and timestamps. These posts, Your Honor, show the plaintiff publicly discussing our shared future and dream home on the exact same dates she was privately texting Mr. Adam about leaving me for him. I handed over screenshots of her Instagram story, where she'd accidentally included our private text conversations with clearly visible dates. The plaintiff has inadvertently provided evidence of her own deception and fraud, Your Honor. The judge looked directly at Jessica. "Do you have any response to this evidence?" Jessica tried desperately to claim the messages were taken out of context, and that she'd just been confused about her feelings. But dates don't lie, and timestamps don't have feelings. Then she made the catastrophic mistake that sealed her fate. "Even if I was talking to Adam," she said, her voice getting higher and more defensive, "that doesn't change the fact that I invested 3 years of my life in this relationship. I helped him plan for that money. I deserve to benefit from it just as much as he did." The judge's eyebrows rose slightly. "Are you stating under oath that you believe you're entitled to a portion of the defendant's inheritance?" "Yes. I mean, we planned everything together. The house, our future, our whole life. It was supposed to be our money." "On what legal grounds do you base this claim?" "We were going to get married. We talked about it all the time." "Were you legally engaged to be married?" "Well, no, but we discussed it constantly." "Did you make any financial contributions to the inheritance itself?" I provided emotional support. I was building our future together." The judge had heard enough. She dismissed Jessica's case with prejudice and ordered her to pay my court costs. But the real fireworks started in the courthouse parking lot. Adam and Jessica immediately got into a screaming match about whose fault it was that their plan had failed so spectacularly. He was furious that she dragged him into court and made him look like an idiot. She was angry that he hadn't supported her story better. I recorded their entire argument on my phone from my truck. That video, combined with screenshots of the court documents showing Jessica's failed lawsuit, went absolutely viral when I posted everything online. Not just among our mutual friends, but actually viral across multiple platforms. Reddit picked up the story first, then Twitter, then TikTok. Within 48 hours, the video had over 3 million views, and Jessica had become the internet's poster child for gold-digging girlfriends. Adam became a meme template for "side dude gets owned." Their courthouse argument spawned dozens of reaction videos and remix songs. But the real consequences were just beginning. Jessica got fired from her marketing job when the viral video made it back to her supervisor. Apparently, when you become internet famous for being a manipulative gold digger, companies don't want you representing their brand to customers. Adam lost his sales position when his employer saw the video and decided he demonstrated poor character judgment and integrity issues. Jessica's rental application for a new apartment got rejected when the property manager Googled her name and found the court records plus the viral video. Adam's live-in girlfriend, oh yes, he'd been cheating on someone else too, kicked him out and took their shared dog when she saw the video proof of his infidelity. Within 30 days, they went from planning their dream life funded by my stolen inheritance to both being unemployed, homeless, and internet famous for all the wrong reasons. That's when the begging started. Jessica called me sobbing, asking if there was any way I could help her through this difficult time. She claimed she'd learned her lesson and realized how much she'd thrown away. She wanted to know if we could start fresh and rebuild what we had. Adam actually showed up at my workplace, hat in hand, begging me to take down the video. He said it was ruining his life, and he'd learned his lesson about respecting relationships. He offered to do anything I wanted if I would just help him repair his destroyed reputation. I gave them both the exact same response. You made your choices. Now you get to live with the consequences. They created this entire situation through greed, lies, and betrayal. They could solve it by becoming better people, but that wasn't my responsibility or my problem.